K.D. Hall is an acclaimed communicator, storyteller, filmmaker, professor, and leadership expert and crisis management leader. She is also the co-founder of K.D. Hall Foundation and co-founder of K.D. Hall Communications.
I'm Katie Hall, and I live in Shoreline, Washington, and my personal zip code is 98177. And Katie Hall Foundation, we sit in the Central District of Seattle, and our zip code is 98144. My pronouns are she, her.
What brought you to this great state of Washington?
Oh, I love the state of Washington, Keith, just like you. I'm from the East Coast. I'm from Detroit. However, I've been residing in the state of Washington on and off for 17 years. And what brought me to Washington initially was the United States Air Force with my husband, and we were over in Spokane. And when we came over to Seattle to visit for our anniversary, I remember telling my husband, like, this is the part of Washington we're supposed to live in. So whatever you need to do, we need to get over here. And we end up making it over to this side of the state like 4 years later.
How would you describe your own wellness journey? And do you have any personal wellness goals for yourself?
I definitely do. I'm on the fourth floor. I am 41. I want to live. I really want to live to 101. Why do I want to live to 101? Selfishly, I want to get that centenarian certificate from the president of the United
States. Did
it. Easier to run for president, but I want that certificate. I'm being honest. And then I want to live a long life. I want to be able to tell stories to my grandkids and great grandkids and other kids that look like them and kids that don't look like them. I want to live a long life. I think that I'm meant to live a long life. And so part of that means that you have to figure out, how do you live a long life? Rest. And so, Keith, I go to sleep on the weekends. I get up at 5 a.m. every morning. I can't help it. That's just my motor. It's my clock. But on the weekends, I'm back in the bed at 11 a.m. and I'm taking a nap from 11 to 2. And then I get back up and I do something else fun. But I find that I can't do what I used to do in my 30s. I can't do what I used to do in my 20s if I want to live. And part of that is self-care. So like for me, I would put my money in to get massages once a week. I love massages, Keith. I need them too, right?
Both.
My massages is a non-negotiable. I don't care what else is due. That massage is happening. So wellness is everything nowadays. I take it more and more serious every day. And I try my best to eat well. And then even when I don't eat well, I enjoy that too, because you got to enjoy it, right? But I try to eat well 80% of my week. 20%, I get a little wild. I'm not gonna lie. I'm definitely gonna do my chicken wings once a month.
Well, I'm with you on that.
But other than that, Keith, I try to take it serious because the issues, not issues, but like the complications or the limitations I have in my gut. I have to make sure that I'm putting really healthy probiotics in there and a lot of like different leaves and teas and stuff before I eat. And I find that it helps me just have a much better day, a better week. When I don't feel well, I don't like the way I show up. I'm mean. What I'm saying? I'm very jittery and stuff like that. I don't like the way that is. And so sometimes I'll just cancel my day if I'm not right. Because I'm like, who am I to bring this negative energy out to the world? So I'll just cancel my day sometimes or just work from home if I didn't get a chance to eat right. It's that serious to me now because I know what it feels like when you don't eat right, and I know what it feels like to be on a surgery bed and to get cut on too.
So what do you think are some of the biggest obstacles for you achieving your goals of longevity? And then how would you, well, you kind of already said how you relax, but how do you think you're going to achieve those goals?
No, Keith, that's a great question, actually. I think that the biggest thing that will prevent me is stress. Stress is one of the biggest killers, right? And it's like we're gonna all experience stress. It's the stress and how you deal with the stress. And so that's the reason why I told you, like, even like Keith, like in transparency, like we're right now in closing of selling our house in Florida. And it's stressful because we're not there. It's an entirely different state and the laws are different. And then we live here in Washington State where we love, and we bought a house here before here too, and it was easy to sell it. So going into this battle of the closing of our house, I just told myself, regardless of what happens, the right thing is going to happen. So it's like setting my mind up the right way. eating the right food. And then at the end of the day, if we didn't come to an agreement at the end of the day, I got to put it down until tomorrow and go to
Mm.
sleep. And that's not something that I've done a lot in my 30s. I would just like stay up all throughout the night and try to figure it out. But now, if I can let myself sleep,
Mm.
so I think it's important to get our rest. I think it's important to learn how you deal with stress, because the way you deal with stress might be different for me. You know what I mean? And
Mm.
being able to honor myself when I'm stressed out. And so now, something I never done in the past is I would tell somebody, I can't have this conversation with you right now. I'm not in the right place. I'm not going to respond right. You know what? Can we talk tomorrow? And if I feel like I keep getting pushed to the edge before I go off, I keep telling, listen, I really need to stop this conversation right now. You don't understand. You know what I mean? And I do that for myself now. And I never done that before in the past.
How would you say your community, big or small, takes care of each other?
I think we take care of each other through a few different things. What I love about being Black is that we have the ability to really have joy and really to, like, you know what I'm saying, like laugh through things, even some trauma. Like when you think about, remember the whole boat situation that happened maybe 2 months ago with the chairs and everything. I mean, I love us because we get so much light out of such a serious
Such a painful, serious incident. So
situation.
much laughter and joy
Yeah.
came.
The joy, right, that comes out of that. And you know, I'd never been out the country before, Keith. I was able to go to Ghana this summer. It's my first time out the
Wow.
country. I don't consider Canada out the country just because I'm from Detroit. It was so close. um and the one thing that I noticed about the Black people in Ghana is that they had so much joy. They had so much joy. And I remember telling my parents, like, they were way richer than we are, much richer. Like the richness of the dancing and just the joy, like that's the place I want to be. And you know what, Keith? Most of them were dying at like 108 and 113 because they celebrate death. Like everything was billboards. I'm like, I want a billboard when I die. But they had billboards up, and most people were dying at like 108. If somebody was dying at 70 or 80, they were considered young.
Like, damn,
Yeah.
what happened?
Yeah, like why that person died? They still had 50 years left. You know what I mean? So it's the joy. That's going to be the key to us living a long life. We got to find joy. We got to find joy in our daily lives, and we got to find some form.
Let's go right into the next question. How does spirituality play a role in your life and your health and wellness?
It's everything. Um, it's spirituality is my values. It's, you know what I mean, like truly. So like before I make decisions, um, I consider it. I consider how will this impact not just me, but how does it impact other people, right? And that's part of my spirituality. Like my spirituality is love. It
Mm.
really, really is. It's love, and it's being able to like love our people for who we are and understanding us and understanding the different trauma that we deal with. You know, Keith, people will always say like Black people have trauma in our bodies. And I will always get upset about that. And even that doctor said that to me, remember? When I
Hmm.
was losing my appendix. And where I'm at today at 41 years old, I agree that I do have certain stresses in my body. And I also agree that I have certain joy in my body too. And I give both of them the right type of energy. So those stressors, I'm learning how to work through them. I mentioned to you about my gut, my stomach. My stomach is my thing. And so I have to protect my stomach. And I protect my stomach so that I can show up.
What would you like people outside of your community to know about KD Hall?
You. So me as an individual,
Yeah.
okay, gotcha. So what I would like people to know about me outside of my community is that, for one, we are all more alike than we're different. That's number one. There's truly like a human, it's a humanity to what we do, right? Period. What Keith does, in all of his different realms of work that he works in and what we do. So that's number one. We're just like you. There's really no difference, right? We care about community, we care about our children, we care about money, and we care about good health care. So like that's number one. And number two is that, and to the day I die, Keith, I can certainly look you in your eye and tell you that I'm going to be in the community. And to the day I die, I'm going to always work in the community. I'm going to always work within the world of women and girls in leadership, and in women and girls and their health disparities. And that's something that you can always count on me being a part of. regardless of what happens in my life.
What was your experience during the first year of COVID?
That's a good one. Oh man, that's a good one. Like so February 29th, because it was a leap year. And I
Mhm.
remember February 29th, Keith, I was sitting in the office at Bellevue College with a board of directors, and there was the looming of COVID. We heard about it happening in Kirkland, I believe. Was that Kirkland? The
Yeah,
first,
I think so. I
yeah.
think it was like ground zero.
Yeah, ground zero happened in Kirkland. So I'm like, oh man, it's close. And I was working on a crisis, my first big crisis that has really defined my career to this point. Sorry. I remember looking and saying the best thing that happened to us is if this COVID thing is something serious and it stays around, that's going to help us. I remember saying that. And that was the beginning of COVID-19 for me. I bought a house the day that Governor Inslee shut down the state. And I remember they were saying like we couldn't move, but we were like literally en route. So I was like, just keep driving, get to the new house.
Just keep driving. Can't stop on the highway.
Driving, guys, please. He said it's going to shut down, but it's going to take them at least 24 hours to enforce.
Right, right.
So we moved, we bought a new house. The part that I didn't like is we were indoors.
Mm.
And our family, we like to get out there to the parks and walk. And I remember the state parks closed down. Remember, because they closed down all the national parks and all of our
Yeah.
parks were closed. And then that's when a little bit of depression started to set in. And I had a 1-year-old, I believe, and a 4-year-old at that time. So then it was just about like we gotta figure it out. So we still walked. We had to walk. That was our saving grace, is
Uh,
walking in the morning and at night as a family. We got really tight as a family.
mm.
And then as COVID continued to move through, I lost the aunt, and she was only 55 years old due to COVID. She ended up succumbing to COVID, had a heart attack and passed, and then her husband passed 2 weeks later from COVID. And after that, we started to experience a lot of death with COVID. And then it was very painful to go through that when you lose family members, you know what I mean? And you really want to see them make it. I didn't believe a lot of the stuff until it really happened to me, until it
Mm.
happened to us. And then we went to the funerals, right, of our
Yeah.
family members. And then you have to be all with your mask on and all covered up at the funerals because you don't know who else got COVID, right? And you're not trying to die. And for
Right.
me, Keith, it was very traumatic because once again, my daughter has sickle cell, and if you were at the beginning of COVID, they kept saying that like people with sickle cell were just like dying of COVID. So that brought a level of anxiety. And I remember we did have one crisis in April of 2020. So right as COVID kicked off, and I remember the doctor saying, "Stay at home as long as you can. You're really good at this. You and David are great at this. See if you guys can fight through it. Let's see if you can break the pain at home." He said, "Because we don't want her in the hospital because if she come in the hospital, she might get COVID." And so I remember us doing that for 10 hours, and my daughter was in such bad pain that we had to take her into the hospital. And my husband couldn't come. My daughter couldn't come, my youngest daughter. It was just me and KJ. And we had to stay in the hospital the whole time together because if I would have left out, I would not have been able to come back in. So that
Wow.
was part of my COVID experience. It was scary.
What could have made that experience better, if anything?
I don't think anything because I get where the hospitals were coming from. They
Mm.
didn't know, and they were just trying to do the best at what they could do. But what I would say, Keith, as we move forward, if we look at history, we're going to always have some form of crises happening. I
Mhm.
think that we have to get smarter and we got to stop waiting for stuff to happen to prepare. We need to
Mhm.
really think about contingency plans. So, yeah, the next thing may not be COVID, but if it's anything like COVID, how do we still operate the world, right? In the event that something like that takes over us that's airborne. And airborne illnesses are going to get more extreme, I'm sure. You know what I mean? As time goes along. So we have to be smart as Americans and as Washingtonians, and we have to think about how do we prepare for the future? How do we prepare if there was something else to happen? I mean, every 18 years, something happens, right? So, like,
Um, with that, are you vaccinated? And did you
oh,
get?
absolutely. I had to be. I would get
Yeah, yeah.
fired.
Right. How did you feel about the whole vaccine rollout? What
I
was
didn't
that
like it, of
experience?
course. I'm more of a herb person. I'm definitely a herbal person,
Mm.
100%. Not ashamed of it either. I use Western medicine when needed. I'm also a big believer in Eastern medicine too. So I
Okay.
wasn't a big believer of the vaccinations. But me and my husband, I think he was, I don't know why he had to get it. Maybe he was at UW at the time. But for me, I was at UW. I teach there, and that was part of our contracts. If we weren't vaccinated, we were going to be terminated.
Right.
Um, so I got my first vaccination. I had no issues with it. I think my second one, I might get like a little bit of, cough, sneeze, cold. And then my third one was okay, but it hurt my arm really bad. But I think I have three. How many are
Okay.
out right now? Is it five, six? I don't know. I've had three though. I've
Okay.
had three, and it was because I had to. Now, for my children, on the other hand, um, especially KJ, because we do have sickle cell, I did consider what she had to say, and she has not been vaccinated. And my family we have not had COVID. My husband had,
Yeah.
and I don't really know how I feel right now, Keith. Like they're really put pressure on us with the kids, and it's like I have so much to think about, but we haven't done it yet with the kids. But I have three. I think David has two. Well,
Hmm.
we'll just say David has three. I don't know what he's supposed to have.
When COVID arrived, did you receive neighborhood communication? Like,
Absolutely.
okay.
Well,
Um,
I was in it, Keith. I was actually on the
right.
COVID task force because I was at Bellevue College managing a crises. So I was also part of the team managing COVID-19 for the state.
Okay.
So I was really, really in
What
it.
do you see for the future of the Black community?
Man, I see us being whole. I see us through wellness. I see the Black community being able to work on our healing. I don't think that our healing is going to happen in one or two generations, Keith. It's going to take at least four generations, if not more, to totally work through the healing that needs to happen in the Black diaspora. I do believe that for the future of us, we have to hold on to who we really are, and we have to push the envelope, and we have to decide how are we going to invest into this. I don't want to call it a fight, but how are we going to invest into this evolution of Black people? Are you going to be in the inside? Are you going to work on the outside? Are you going to work within government? But sometimes we got to fix the problems from within. And I think that that's the key. I really do. I think the key to wellness for Black people will be through us healing. We have to heal, and we have to heal first for ourselves, and then we need to heal collectively. I feel like Black women, like there's a certain healing that needs to happen with us, a certain healing that needs to happen with Black men amongst Black men, and then there's a certain healing that needs to happen with us as a whole. And with our kids. A lot of times I get teased, Keith, on how I treat my kids because I listen to them. I let them share their voice and I actually listen, even if I disagree. And something, a lot of times people they'll make fun of us millennials, like, oh God, the way they raise their kids is horrible. And I actually told somebody on social media, I went off. I was like, you know what? I remember that the greatest generation said the same thing about the baby boomers. So let's not talk about these millennials so much. Because at the end of the day, every generation has something beautiful to bring to the evolution of people. And I think for us Black people, our evolution is going to be within our kids. It's going to be us ensuring that we're not passing down some of those generational abuse, trauma, and curses that happen to us and being able to end it. And it's a struggle. I'm not gonna lie to you, it's a struggle. Like I have to find myself. Like sometimes, like my kids, I'm an older parent. They'll just be talking about, please be quiet, get my work done. And I have to find just listening, bite my tongue, just listening to them. And hold
Hmm.
them accountable too. But I think that our healing, our wellness, and
Yep. I agree.
and I
Uh,
think your kids and my kids are going to be the beginning of the real evolution. Generation Alpha is what they're calling them. I think that they're
Question, and it's a good one.
I'm grateful for you. I'm grateful
Oh,
for
thank you.
you. I'm grateful for Christina. I'm grateful for the blockers putting this together and being selected as a Black organization to represent the Black diaspora. I'm grateful that you guys made sure that, not me, but that the Black voice was included in this conversation. And
Right.
honestly, I'm really grateful for everybody that came before us because even no matter what they did, they got us to where we are today, where you and I can sit here on a Zoom at 11:32 a.m. I'm assuming you might be down in Tacoma. I'm
Hmm.
sitting here in Seattle, and we didn't have to leave our homes, right? And we're able to have this type of conversation. Like that's what it's really all about, us being able to connect. And I just hope that we can, I hope that we can connect more as a community, with across the state, and understanding that we all have the value that we bring to this state, and we got to work together.
Can it be your face?
It's crazy how we hit them with the 3P. Got them hits coming soon, no sneak peek.
See the full interview on our YouTube channel at Elevate Black Wellness.